Have you ever played a game that was so overlooked, that was entertaining in almost every facet and resonated with you on so many different levels that you just can't cope with the fact that it doesn't have the recognition that it truly deserves? Disaster Day of Crisis just became that game for me. I've owned this game for a few years now, and I'm kicking myself for not popping it into my Wii the moment that it arrived from Europe in the mail. Yes, that's right, Disaster Day of Crisis never made it over to America, and the reason for its absence is absolutely unforgivable. But I'll get to that in a bit. Mistakenly, I had presumed that Disaster Day of Crisis belonged to the Zatai Zetsumi Toshi series of games, or better known as the Disaster Report series in the West. My bad, it was made by a different team entirely, and stands as more of an homage to that series. There's no getting around it, they share a lot of similarities on the surface, but it's in the areas in which they differ that lets DDoC stand as one of the most unique Wii titles on the platform. As a matter of fact, DDoC was developed by one of the most prolific and celebrated developers to ever grace a Nintendo platform.
Monolith Soft.
That's right, the guys who brought you the fantastic Xenosaga and Xenoblade series developed and produced this survival action title. This fact is worth noting because here we have a team that's experienced mostly in developing RPGs. And here they were, trying to make a third-person action shooter/adventure title with the target of hitting the launch window on the Nintendo Wii, which was wishful thinking because the game didn't release until 2008. Around 2 years after the Wii's launch. It's my opinion that the delay resulted in a better overall product, but this title is not without its flaws. Make no mistake, this will not be a game that everyone will love. Regardless, it is one hell of a ride all the way through. Disaster Day of Crisis has you playing as Raymond Bryce, one of the most American dude bro protagonists a team of Japanese developers could dream up. I just don't give a shit how stereotypical American he comes off as. He's got a faux hawk, tribal tat, and a date rape chin strap beard. I can't help but love this guy. He's hands down one of the most hilarious and heroic characters to ever grace the Wii.
I bet they're fine. I'm sure they're worrying about you too.
Yeah. You rescue people, right? Will you be able to save everyone?
Yeah. I'll save everyone. I promise.
Iris! Oh no! The Lahar! No! Could she have fallen in? It's my fault. I put her in all this danger.
He's a member of the international rescue team that's sent in to save people from disaster events. This game drops Ray and his partner of ambiguous relationship into an active volcano to save some people.
We gotta bail out! Get up here, fast! Roger that. Heroes, roll out. It's time for dinner.
I'm with you. Let's go.
You're dropped into a volcano. Here's your tutorial level. Get ready. Ray has your standard HP and stamina gauge like, any other action game, no big deal. But he also has a couple of unique meters to boot. He has a heartbeat gauge, wherein if he runs for too long, he can become winded and he may have a heart attack if you don't take good care of him. He also has lungs like any other human. The big difference is he'll occasionally fill up with smoke if he's in an area with unclean air. However, he can remove this black junk if he stands in an open area with the cleanest of clean air and just does some yoga breathing techniques that he learned in the Marines. So far, so good. You lose stamina through typical means such as running, jumping around, or by getting a little hungry. So how do you recover all this? By eating cheeseburgers double the size of Ray's head. Holy shit, as an American I should be offended right now, but I'm not. Just when you're settling in and you're getting a feel for what this game is gonna be like, lava spurts out of the ground like a Steve Rambo money shot, and our boys are running for their lives. I gotta admit, I normally hate QTEs in video games. I think they're a lazy way out of coming up with some good controls. In a general sense, I think the use of the Wiimote and Nunchuck made these events feel more engaging. In this case, you're not just butt mashing, you shake it the Wiimote and Nunchuck and you feel like you're actually sprinting for your life. I loved it. Here are the big 3 facts we learned during the prologue. Number 1, Steve and Ray might have had a gay experience during their football camp days.
I want you to look after her, okay? Even if it's just to tell her our stupid high school football stories.
All the more reason for you to survive. Besides, does she really want to hear about the time we... I didn't think so.
Number 2, Steve wants Ray to deliver a compass to his sister Lisa, but I'm no stranger to compasses in my survival game, so I'm rolling with it. And lastly, Steve's dying wish is that Ray don't fuck my sister. Just before falling into the lava, Steve reminds Ray that he can't save everyone. And then he commits suicide by letting go of Ray's hand and falling into the lava just before Ray was about to save everyone. I don't know about you, but now I need some time to decompress this whole situation before moving on. Time jump. Year passes and Ray is now a member of the Crisis Management Division of Blue Ridge City. And you learn that he's also a former Marine. I guess now he's also a part of the FBI too. I think the writers just took the Steven Seagal approach to writing Ray's character and pasted all the cool things onto Ray, which is good enough for me.
The guys that I'm training in UFC, some of them have gotten their championship belts, world championship belts, because they've attributed that to me and me teaching them, so I still know a thing or two.
A Category 5 hurricane named Aaron is set to come down on the coastal city, and also a terrorist organization named Surge is threatening the government with a nuclear bomb, unless they give him lots of money. And also, they have kidnapped Steve's sister, Lisa. And also, Ray is the only guy qualified enough to do anything about all 3 problems, and now he's deputized by the FBI to take martial law into his own hands. Unlike Samus and other M, Ray is authorized to do whatever he wants. Who cares? By any means necessary. Martial law, by any means. Stamp his card. He's okay. He's an American. He's got a license to operate all that. One thing you'll learn is that Ray is a total Marty Stew. He solves all the problems all the time, without ever messing up his wicked hairdo in the process. Probably uses the same hairspray as Angry Joe, and I respect that. I can't be mad at the developers for taking a tongue-in-cheek action movie approach that sometimes goes so far off the rails that I just never know how it's gonna get back on them, and I don't ever think it does. So Ray finds himself facing off against a terrorist organization that's named after one of my favorite beverages, Surge. You're gonna enter a bunch of shooting gallery segments that are scattered throughout the levels and act as a mirror of the shoot and cover gameplay of a Time Crisis game. You aim by pointing your Wiimote at the screen and firing with B. Can't get any simpler than that. It works very well, and if you ever have trouble placing your shots, well, Ray has a focus gauge where he can zoom in on the enemy for more precise aim and double the damage. You can switch between 4 different weapons depending on what you have equipped. There are also some environmental things that you can target, like your standard red explosive barrels, or sometimes the earthquake will do all the heavy lifting. If Ray is low on health, he can use some bandages or a health kit from his inventory to heal, so none of the battles end up being too difficult if you're stocked up for the occasion. The shootout segments have a great arcadey aspect to them and are always a joy to participate in. There's a scoring system at play. It tallies up your shooting ability during these fights by measuring your accuracy, combos, damage taken, and the amount of headshots. The better you do, the more gun points you get. And then you can spend those points on weapon upgrades in between levels. There's a pretty cool weapon tree that allows you to unlock the full potential of each weapon, and trust me when I say that you'll want to earn enough points to upgrade your gear. The thing is, the enemies do scale in difficulty as the game progresses, and your guns become obsolete every 5 levels or so. The game does provide you with plenty of opportunities to gain weapon points throughout. For example, a hidden objective is to seek out the sharp-dressed Eric, and if you do find him, he'll hand you a shooting range ticket, which you can use in the post level to take on some of the challenge maps.
Yo, Raymond! Getting any better? Power is necessary in order to save lives, don't you think? This is your new ticket. Use it to obtain the power you need.
These levels are great and a nice distraction from the main game. There's a lot of variety in these ranges, and they're mandatory if you want to unlock some of the best weapons in the game, and trust me, you will. If you get good enough at a particular range, Eric will not only reward you with a new weapon, but a huge profit of weapon points to sweeten the reward. You can replay these levels as many times as you want to farm WP. By the way, when you unlock the Gatling gun, my advice is to focus on upgrading it as quickly as possible and replaying the Gatling gun range over and over. This is what I found to be the most efficient way to get the max amount of WP with the least amount of effort involved. Throughout each level, Ray will be tasked with saving citizens in danger. This is where the game truly won over my heart. You see, each citizen has different needs in order to save them. Some are just hungry guys, so you just toss them a few cookies and they go about their day.
You alright?
Some citizens are doggo citizens, and you gotta carry them away from the tsunami flood. They're what I call highest priority citizens. Some people just have burn marks all over their body, so you gotta spray them with your healing juice. You can learn a lot from this game. Finally, some of them require you to perform CPR by shaking your Wiimote to keep the beat. The heartbeat in this case. One thing you'll learn is this game always changes it up. It's like a WarioWare title, but you're saving people's lives or letting them die on the road. Saving a citizen will net you some SP or survival points. The survival points are an entirely separate leveling tree from the weapon points. Every heroic action you take in the level is counted towards how many SP you earn. You can also punch out barrels and kick down boxes along the way to find hidden SP tokens. So you take the SP and you can use it to upgrade Ray's various abilities. Maybe you want him to be more proficient in reloading and shooting. Then you should upgrade his firearms ability maybe. Disaster came out around the time of achievements and trophies, just when they started getting ground in video games. Unfortunately, the Wii didn't have its own equivalent to achievements. Disaster has a set of in-game achievements called titles, which are earned by doing all sorts of random and challenging tasks. You'll likely earn titles by pure accident. The titles net you additional SP, and occasionally, if you unlock very specific titles, you will be awarded with different costumes that you can wear in the post-game. And yes, they are worth the effort. Disaster has a nostalgic, old-school approach to challenge that's missing from a lot of modern games. You find out that experimentation through changing up your playstyle the next time around will always net you cool new costumes and titles and weapons that can drastically change your experience the subsequent time through. It gives you reasons to revisit the game over and over again, giving you a lot of value for your purchase. Many games nowadays would make this additional content DLC and task the players with opening their wallets instead of rising to a challenge and rewarding them with a fun prize for their effort. Disaster feels like a canceled NES game that was revived later on down the road and released on the Wii. It's segmented into different styles based on the level. It always keeps you guessing. One moment you're out racing a tsunami in a sedan, and the next you're unloading clips into a rabid bear's face in the middle of a forest fire. This is a game that unabashedly celebrates the fact that it's disaster porn. They just throw about any disaster event that you could be into. Even some of that underground fetish disaster stuff like fire tornadoes where you gotta go to a special website and buy a membership. That's in here.
Holy shit, look at that!
They didn't forget you, boo. There's also a quaint little level up in a mountain cabin where this girl saves Ray's life after he inhaled too much ash and forgot his yoga techniques for some reason. The mountain cabin is part of the game where Monolith sets up a relaxing atmosphere just before throwing Ray into a rabid bear fight and a helicopter launching missiles at his head. That's what we call juxtaposition. Ray is having one hell of a day. Alright, I know I've been talking up the finer points of Disaster. I think I'd be doing this review a giant disservice if I didn't mention the excruciatingly annoying driving segments. Occasionally, Ray will have to hop in a car and engage in one of two kinds of driving segments. Segment 1, chasing down a bad guy. Segment 2, driving for his life away from some sort of terrifying natural disaster. These segments of the game force you to unplug the nunchuck and rotate the Wiimote sideways to enter driving mode. I'm using a first generation controller with a Wii Motion Plus dongle tumor sticking out of it. My hand just doesn't seat on the controller comfortably with it on there. Anyways, you're forced to use the Wii Motion features to steer the car, which is nothing short of a nightmare due to how precise your turns must be. Sometimes you're straight up forced to do a 90-degree turn. To accomplish most of the turns, you gotta softly hit on the brake or use the handbrake. The game recommends handbraking for sharp turns, but I don't. The physics of the car will just send you rolling when you hit on that handbrake too hard, which will end your run of the level. I especially dislike these third-person Crash Bandicoot driving segments where you're forced to drive into the camera, and you'll often crash into cars or jump to the wrong segment of the road. Like an old school NES game, I somehow tricked my brain into adapting to the awful motion controls and persevered. By the 5th driving bit, I had already gotten used to it and it became much more manageable. Best advice for most of them, just take it slowly, especially the turns, and you'll be aight. Not excusing these missions by any degree, but the rest of the game truly does make up for these very low bits. At the end of the game, Ray finally faces off against Evans. He's got this James Bond villain briefcase laptop that's connected to a bomb that he wants to set off just because it might give him a boner. That's really the only reason we're given.
Tell me, Ray! You ever get scared as a kid when a storm would come? I did! But I was excited even more. When this mission started, I felt like I did when I was a kid. Earthquakes, tsunamis, eruptions, floods, and now a hurricane? And all this was your idea of a good time? Yeah, I didn't really care about the mission. I just wanted the fun to last. I don't want it to end yet! You sick bastard!
And if that wasn't a crazy enough premise for a final boss, the writers are just like, let's drop in a Metal Gear for him to pilot. Whatever, man, I like Metal Gears and boners, so let's do this. At the end of it all, Ray saves the day and ends up fucking his dead best friend's sister at the behest of his dead best friend's last wishes. So now the credits are rolling and you're thinking, I guess that was a quaint little game, kind of fun, maybe nothing special. Oh, you're not done. Now you're in the post game where if you want to get the secret ending, you've got a little bit more work to do. A meteor is en route to Earth, and what can you do about it? I'll just launch Ray up in outer space without a suit so he can shoot at its core with his arsenal of weapons. That was the best plan they could think of? So your best bet is to play the new Game Plus to unlock more points to upgrade Ray and his guns. Now, you're about to understand why I made this video in the first place. In the post-game, you get to wear all the costumes you've unlocked, and let me tell you, Mario Bros. 3 Frog Suit is on the menu, boys. Feels good, man. I cannot get over this now. What went wrong here? Why didn't this game ever get released in America? This went wrong. Reggie. Why does he keep getting away with this? According to an old interview with IGN, Reggie stated that he didn't think Disaster was worth $50. I beg to differ, and that he found the voice acting to be laughable. Okay, that we can agree on, but I'm not seeing a negative here.
Time to finish this movie. Here's the part where the hero kicks the bad guy's ass.
Okay, Reggie, you won't take a chance on Disaster, but you pulled the trigger on this. I I truly don't understand what was going on at Nintendo of America near the tail end of the Wii's lifespan. There are so many good games coming out in other countries, and as a result, a lot of grassroots efforts had to pop up like Operation Rainfall in order for them to ever see the light of day in the States. We practically had to beg and plead to release games that were already finished, that were already translated over in the West. Unfortunately, Disaster never made the cut, and I don't understand why. Disaster is a game that's not meant to be taken seriously at any moment. It was made specifically to entertain you with laughs and insane rescue missions that are just not plausible and frequent destructive set pieces and boom things. It's made for people who revel in dumb action movies with meathead protagonists armed to the teeth. People like me, people like you, people like Americans. At the end of it all, I feel sorry for Reggie. I just feel like he's the type of guy where the joke just goes right over his head.
My body is ready.
And then, he pretends to understand the joke, but deep down, he didn't get it. So then he just starts repeating the punchline to the joke to appear like he was in on it all along.
I heard some of you laughing. Don't try to deny it. I heard you. Yes, my body was ready.
Now that I mention it, I feel that he's fated to repeat the same tired memes forever and ever, up until he jumps ship back to shilling pizzas with Pizza Hut, or dies a premature death from a bad batch of chin polish accident. That was my review of Disaster Day of Crisis. I hope you enjoyed it. If you're an American Wii owner, you should mod it. There's no reason not to. Just want to give a big shout out to all my patrons out there that helped make this video possible. Gotta give a big shout out to my boy, Wild Potato Industries. He's my newest patron and a longtime subscriber. He's working on an obscure survival horror series, and it's really good. You should check it out. My next few reviews will be in a similar fashion, playing a lot of games that were just not released outside of Japan or the PAL territories. There's a lot of games out there with similar stories. It really bums me out that all these developers out there, good developers with unique ideas, put forth all this work on some of these Wii titles to never see the light of day in North America just because some businessman didn't enjoy it. So anyway, thanks for watching. Stick with me. You're gonna find out about some crazy overlooked titles. You know me, that's what I'm into. I'll see y'all next time.